you can use the fear in the market as a negotiation tool. But between us, I don't, so I'm not saying that I'm not doing that because,
tell the seller you ain't gonna sell this thing, man.
when people are fearful, be greedy. And when people are fearful, when people are greedy, be fearful, so.
What's up, deal makers? We're about to drive 2 hours to a meetup. What the fuck? Good thing is it'll only be a half hour back.
It will not be a half hour back. It'll be at least an hour back.
What's up, you guys? We just finished Ask Alex number 80, and this week we are breaking down how we've developed and grown a virtual team to help us here in the States. Alex, what are your biggest takeaways?
Huge takeaways. Amazing webinar. Make sure you watch it. We covered hiring virtual assistants. We covered training them and holding them accountable and so much more. Make sure you watch it and learn. Let's go. Aloha. What's up? What's up, everybody? So I'm excited about today. I'm in Studio City. I'm in the beautiful city of, well, I guess the area of LA, Studio City. So I'll be discussing how to build a team. And my co-host, Will Wall, will be here in a minute. And nobody better talk about building a team than that guy. He sure knows how to tell people what to do. A lot better than I do. But thanks for joining. This is something that it's a big passion of mine to be able to grow the team, help other people become more knowledgeable in this business. Just let me see here. I don't see what Will was. Oh, there he is. So let me know if you guys can hear me loud and clear. Also, make sure you're using the chat constantly. Everybody that's in this webinar and is attending has interest in building a team or real estate investing. What's up, Will? Can't hear you.
What's up, Mr. Camacho? We can hear you loud and clear, sir. We are good to go. I see some familiar faces kind of chiming in. I see Mark in there. I see Ali in there. I see some of our usual faces. So as you guys know, Ben's in the building. Good to see you guys. I see Ulysses in there and Andy. Go ahead and let us know, guys, where it is that you guys are from. And let us know as well what your Instagram handle is, like where we can kind of find you. As Alex mentioned, obviously we are in Los Angeles, Arizona, Hawaii, now Nevada. We're kind of buying all over if it makes sense. And, if it's a good investment property. So keep in touch if you guys have any deals in there. And like Alex said, today is super fun. We're actually going to be going over, kind of step by step where our business has gone, where it came from, and how virtual team members have really played a big part in that, right?
Absolutely, man. We couldn't have built what we've built without the people that south of the border, also now in the Philippines, and without their support, without them working on stuff that wasn't the best use of, whether it was your time, my time, or some of the people that work with us, project managers, acquisitions managers. Because I remember, honestly, dude, at the second place that I worked for, the second investor that I worked for, I had a lot more support, so I got more results because I had, like an executive kind of assistant. I had, people to go look at properties. So I know how important that can be from, even from the ground level,
Let's go, man. Well, I know, again, like we mentioned, this is our webinar that we're doing every week, guys. And just a special shout out, this is our 80th webinar that we've done now. So we're getting up there. We've been doing this for quite some time. And the reason why we're doing it is, again, we want to go over the things that we've done, kind of provide those, those roadblocks for you guys so that you can kind of get through those a little bit quicker, maybe a little bit less painfully than we might have, right? So, one good place to do that if you guys are new is our Facebook group. Make sure you do join the Facebook group. Again, we've been doing this for 80 weeks. So sometimes people go for a couple weeks and then something will come up, but they're able to kind of stay connected on that Facebook group. So definitely do recommend you guys, joining that and being a part of that, so that you guys can stay connected with some people as well. We do announce kind of our events. So we have an event coming up. And when we announce those events, we're usually announcing those online as well on our Facebook group first. So keep that in mind. Alex, what other kind of big updates do you have going on, man?
Yeah, so big things are happening right now. It's almost, I would say, overwhelming, but a great thing that we're doing the webinar, because I think we're gonna be able to talk about those things of how you're able to handle a lot bigger load when you have people around you that can help you with it, right? So I think one big thing that is updated is we're getting a lot of the properties that we're working on right now. in a Joshua Tree in the desert, because we got 5 projects out there to the finish line. So excited about refinancing, keeping a couple of those as short-term rentals, and then selling a couple of those as flips. So it's been a challenge, to be honest with you. It's been difficult to get people out there. You know, we put a lot on our new project manager there, very capable. It's just a stud, but you know, we did kind of overload him with some great acquisitions. So you know, it's just great to see the progress that, you know, that's almost to the finish line on almost all the projects out there. Super happy about that. Sean, one of our, you know, project managers out there in Hawaii, has been making a lot of progress on our beach front Oahu deal that we got going on. That's a property that's really special, and you know, we just took a little bit longer than we needed or we wanted to get that off the ground. But now with his support, he's handling business out there. What else? We've made a lot of progress. I think people that follow us see that we made a lot of you know, posts last week about being in Phoenix, going and walking the 18 unit that we acquired. And just a lot of progress on that. The vacant units, we've done the demo. We've got rough plumbing done. We've got electrical moving forward. So just moving at a fast pace on that one too. So that's exciting. And we, like you said earlier, we closed on a Vegas flip. So one of our first, or it is our first Vegas deal. We're not looking to do a bunch there, but we have a lot of contacts there. We go there every quarter for the mastermind. You know, we were trying to wholesale it to somebody in our network, but it just didn't really work out because of the timeline it took to get this deal to the finish line because of probate. So long story short, we got that one closed out, and we're already moving forward on the rehab process on that. It's just cookie cutter entry level flip. Nothing too scary about that one. And then what else? Oh, you know, working with us, you guys, your role will evolve, or what happens, right? Will your role evolve? My role has evolved. People that, you know, in acquisition. So Amari, one of our, you know, our star team members, is now crushing it because he's been out there in Hawaii helping us get the Maui flip that we got going. And it's cool to see that he's staying at the house, my house in Maui, this beautiful big house with a view. And then he's working on that property, and then he's kind of flying back and forth and kind of living my lifestyle a little bit right now, because I just can't be in Hawaii. There's too much to do here in LA and Phoenix. So it's just kind of cool, right? Have you seen him on that?
Yeah, his posts are just incredible, right? He's out there enjoying it, and you know, a real lifestyle change for him as well. We always kind of talk about the lifestyle by design and how, you know, that's something that is really important to you and a lot of other, you know, people as they kind of chase financial independence, right? And real estate can play a big part of that. And you know, having that house out there that he can stay at and work at and work on other projects, that's all kind of part of that that design, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because what real estate provides and what we're all here for is, I've said it many times, it's not new, it's like freedom, right? And that can be, you know, that's obviously financial freedom. However, it also provides you this kind of location freedom if you do adopt that mindset of, I don't necessarily have to just make money in one place or just be at one place to make money somewhere else. So, you know, think about that. Like, he's just, you know, not been in Hawaii, now he's flying back and forth because you see me do it. And it's, and ultimately, yes, it's difficult, but there's a lot of things that we do difficult. It's, you know, choose your heart. And as it's said very well, it's hard to be broke, it's hard to be rich. You know, just choose your heart. So anyway, I think that was cool. And then also the big one is that we had an amazing experience at the Limitless conference. Got to connect with a lot of my high level friends and people that are, you know, big people that are doing a lot of things within the real estate investing field that we're also fans of and fortunate enough to call friends. You know, and to be able to have those conversations, to then carry those over to everybody here, everybody over to, you know, that we work with, of what people are talking about. And we are seeing, you know, a shift. You know, we're seeing, you know, less offers. We don't anticipate home values to like completely drop, but it's going to be a more stabilized normal market compared to what we've seen, which is really inflated. And so we're buyers and sellers, right? Well, it's like, so we always have to like be aware of both sides of that coin, as, you know, flipping real estate. So, you know, we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but we bought amazing deals and we have huge spreads and, you know, have entry level properties. So we're excited about, you know, what the future holds for, you know, a buyer's market, because we'll be in a position to buy some great deals. But that's kind of it, man. I'm ready here in LA. I'm kind of in that LA state of mind, just like grinding, seeing more of my some of my family, hanging out with you, hanging out with the team, seeing more of the properties in person. I'm ready to go, bro.
Well, good stuff. I know, you know, like you said, it's a lot of moving parts, and obviously, you know, the team has a lot to do with those moving parts, right? And a lot of that is our virtual team. And that's why we wanted to kind of focus this week on, diving into our virtual team. We get a lot of questions sometimes, hey, how do you get virtual team members? What's the goal of the virtual team members? What are we trying to accomplish with the team members? So those are all just kind of like really, really, important pieces of our team are virtual. So we wanted to kind of, again, give you guys a, breakdown of why we hire, how we hire, what we kind of look for, where we're finding people, and ultimately give you guys a blueprint for, how you could hire virtual team members if that's something that you were ultimately looking to do, down the line as well.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about it before when we prepped for this this specific webinar of just kind of going through the blueprint because we've made a lot of mistakes. And I'm excited to talk about some stories there of how we've kind of dropped the ball on some things. And the great thing about that, though, is that because these virtual team members are fairly affordable, coming from the standpoint of like, small business owner, that they're not mistakes that you're gonna, lose your ass on, right? Where it's just like, okay, you test a new VA out, it's a couple $100 for a week or two, and then it's like, okay, worst case scenario, they're awful, and then you just let them go. But what happens if they do really well and then give you more time to work on things that are gonna make you a lot more money? That's what we're gonna talk about today.
Our cheat sheet here on what we're kind of going over. And yeah, I think ultimately, where we want to start, right, is recruiting, right? Because ultimately that's where we start from, right, Alex? It's where are we sourcing, where are we finding, where are we getting access to people that are virtual that are looking to work in the United States?
Yes, exactly. So let's just talk about it. Let's jump right in. I think everybody is kind of already understanding what we're going to cover. So I'll put in the chat here something that we kind of did earlier, which is just cover kind of some of the places here. I put in the chat, so take a look at that. But essentially, there's these websites that will enable you to recruit and find these virtual assistants. One of them is Upwork. I use them quite often. The other one is Fiverr. The other one, there's Facebook groups, and then there's also referrals from other investors that they've, companies they've used. So we really want to kind of look around because they are everywhere, but there are different sources and they come with this kind of different benefits. So let's see here.
So let's talk through like Fiverr and Upwork. Obviously, those are like virtual platforms where you can find people virtually, right? And they'll work for 1 hour if you need 1 hour of work. If you need 2 hours of work, you can buy a 2-hour block. If you need 5 or 10 hours, you can kind of, acquire those different timelines. Obviously, Facebook groups are going to be good because if there's somebody that that's in that group, that's going to be a referral source. And that kind of leads into the next one, which is obviously, your best is going to be referrals. So if somebody can tell you, hey, you know what, I use this guy and he has other friends of his that are looking for work, that might be a good place to start, right? If you already have team members on your team that are providing quality, valuable, work and feedback to your organization, you might want to ask them if they have other friends or other folks in their network that they also know that are interested, right?
Yeah, it's not hard. I mean, you just got to do some work and follow up with some people and check these websites. And as I mentioned earlier, like the testing is not that hard. I remember the first time I used Upwork was probably like 10 years ago. So I'm not completely new to outsourcing. I needed a contract typed up quickly, professionally. I already had everything I needed. I just needed to change a couple of things. I sent it over to them. Cost me like $50, or I think it was like $40. And I was like, man, I would have had to pay somebody more than that to do that. Here in the States, and I liked it. And I kept on doing that. But it was mostly for like odd jobs and stuff like that. So Upwork was great there. And then we found our more recent senior virtual assistant through that Fiverr, right? It's a little bit more of a kind of transactional type of website. They'll do stuff for $5, but then they're trying to upsell you on other things. But there's just it's a different platform. And then since she was already very active on that, interacting with people and doing remote work, well, then we just end up going with her because she was already kind of used to the type of kind of overall workflow that we were kind of looking for. And then we kind of hired and trained her up, right? Because she was interested in helping us because another thing is it matched some of the stuff she was studying in school for. And so that was a really good alignment. And then the Facebook groups, I don't think we've hired very many from them, but I know other investors that have, because there's so many of them now. And I don't know about you, but I get a shit ton of messages on Facebook from virtual assistants. But since they're not vetted or referrals, I don't pay them any mind. But they are there, right? And like some of the referrals, I did get one of my first virtual assistants from somebody I met at a mastermind, and he had a virtual assistant company. Steve Rosenberg, shout out to Steve. one of our great mentor friends. And we ended up hiring Marlon, your buddy, the one that worked with us for over, I think, a year. And so I'm sure we'll talk about him as well, because he was one of the first virtual assistants that we worked with. So just a couple things there, just keep in mind, but do the work, go out there. You could, we're going to talk about this right in a minute, the interview process that we have, because you do have to interview, and it takes time. So you can't just expect to hire a virtual assistant and they're just, on board and hired and working hard for you in a couple of days. It is a process, right, Will?
It's a process indeed. So, Alex, if you can go ahead and make me host, what I'd love to do is I'm going to ask a poll question to you guys, real quick here, and just want to get some feedback from you guys on this. And then, as Alex alluded to, we've gone through several virtual assistants at different times in our business. And, so it does kind of vary, depending on you guys. But again, I just want to know from the audience here, do you guys have virtual team members? Are you guys currently, employing virtual team members? And there's a poll that should have popped up, in your guys' screen right now. And I see, a couple of you guys answered in. So go ahead and answer that. If you guys are employing virtual assistants, just go ahead and let us know in the chat or on the poll there. And if you're not, go ahead and let us know as well. So Alex, like you mentioned, we go through a hiring process, and part of that is the interview, right? And interviewing people and making sure that they're a right fit. So one thing that I've done is I've actually developed an interview that is more geared towards a virtual team member. So what we've found is that virtual team members, because they're not in your office, because they're not seeing you every day, following instructions and directions is a really important part of their day-to-day role. And so we've gone ahead and made a instruction sheet, a template that kind of tests them on some of the different programs and functions that they're going to be doing to see how quickly they can get those done, how effectively they can get those done, and what process or what route they take to get the task done. And there's no wrong way, but we're just evaluating to see, hey, maybe that's a better way than we're currently doing it. Like, this person can definitely improve that function or that process. Or, you'll notice fairly quickly, like, hey, you know what, this person is a little slower than me at typing up emails. I need somebody that can write emails very quickly for me because I write a lot of emails in a day, and that wouldn't be a good position for that person, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, I think you bring a couple key points of interview, have an interview geared to testing these people, so that way they, we get to see their skills, we get to see, what they do. And then I put in the chat, our overall philosophy, as I heard, and I didn't create this, was, well, we hire slow, we fire fast. So what does that mean? It means that we do our due diligence, we interview people sometimes multiple times. I was just on the phone not even an hour ago talking to Mikey, our operations manager, talking about a potential new virtual assistant we might be bringing on that we interviewed. It looks like we probably will be bringing her on. She didn't do like incredible on the interview, but she certainly was very well qualified, and we think we can maybe train her up. So but it is something that we take our time, we deliberate about it. We don't want to bring somebody on because we're investing time, energy into these people. We're really hoping that they're going to be able to stay with us for the long term, because there is a lot of turnover in the virtual assistant space, because they're virtual workers, things happen in their lives. For some reason or another, there's just a lot of turnover. So we want to avoid that. And so we take our time, we hire slow, and then we fire fast, because it just like, there's no use keeping somebody on the team that it just is not a good fit anymore. And I never like firing people or letting people go. Sometimes I give you the dirty work, but it's just not going to help the rest of the team. And we've made that mistake in the past where we keep people on longer simply because, we do care, we want to, make it work. But ultimately, as a small business or a small to medium business, whatever company that you have, you need to make sure that you're keeping the best talent. You need to make sure that you have people that are engaged in their role. And so if people are not really great at their role and fully engaged, then we just don't want them on the team. And we say A players only, and then we switch it to A+ players only. And what does that mean? You can't keep B players, C players on team, or they need to be in a very kind of junior, just like a position that they don't, it's just like you said, clerical or something that is helping. But even then, we want them to be great at whatever they're doing. So, yeah. Oh,
Good
and then
stuff, man. I know in terms of, fire fast or hire fast, fire, hire slow, fire fast. Again, not a philosophy that we've developed, but it's something that, you do want to make sure you take some time on the interview side, guys. So, don't rush through that process. We've actually done multiple interviews with most of our candidates where we'll have a pre-screening process. Then Alex and I'll screen them, and then we can introduce them to the rest of the VA teams, and say, hey, is this somebody that you guys could see yourself working with? Here's why we like them. Here's where we think they'd be a great fit. And then is this somebody that you guys could gel with and work with on a daily basis? So
yeah. And one more point I want to make on that, hire slow, fire fast. I've made mistakes on both of those. I've hired people too quickly without vetting them just because they knew somebody or just because I felt like I needed to bring someone on the team in that specific role. Didn't do a good job of vetting them, and it turned out horribly because I invested time. They didn't excel in that role. I wasn't a good fit, and then there was just frustration there. So that's what we're trying to do, is help you guys avoid that by taking your time to hire people, but then if it doesn't work out, firing fast. Because I've also we made the mistake. I'll say I've made the mistake where I kept people on too long when it was clearly no longer a good fit anymore for both sides, and then it just dragged on and on and on, and it just affects team morale. People can see that that's kind of something wrong or off within the company and the organization, and so that's why we're telling you guys that we go by this model, because I heard that, I'm like, yeah, we haven't done that well, and every time we're making like a decision, that kind of just in the back of my mind, are we hiring too fast, or are we not firing fast enough? Is this person really still a good fit?
Cool stuff, guys. I see a couple questions starting to come in the chat. If you guys don't mind, there's a Q&A feature just next to the chat. Kind of lets us stay organized over there as people kind of use the regular chat function there to just kind of chat. But if you guys don't mind just moving those questions over to the Q&A, and we'll be sure to get to those either during the presentation here or at the end. We'll kind of knock those out, make sure we get you guys some answers on those. So Alex, let's talk, obviously, right, training is probably a big next portion of, where we're going to go into this, right? So you hire on first you recruit, right? You find out where we're going to find them, then you go in and you hire them. And then next up comes training, right? So what kind of training are we doing that allows us to kind of, get a gear or get a process or something going for each of these individual, virtual team members that we're adding onto our team?
Yeah, so I would say the thing is we have some type of external training where we have access to certain courses, masterminds, content that we've paid for, and so we get them trained up there. And then we also have internal training. So it's kind of that's based on my experience and some of the stuff that I've learned throughout my journey. And so we have both. They're right when they come on board. It's like, okay, go look at this program, go look at this course, or go do this. And it's like their first usually the first week or so, I want to say, it's just all training, right? We're talking about expectations. We're communicating like what their day-to-day kind of really should look like. You've done a great job on this task matrix, which is basically just a to-do list of every day, kind of what their main goals should be, what they should be working on. So I know you spent a lot of hours on that. So great. I know that's been very effective to keep everybody kind of on track. So we do that internal, and then we do kind of just as needed, because some things will come up, such as I don't know, for the acquisitions managers, I remember that Steve's training course coming back out, or not coming back out. We end up signing up for that, and it was a great course. So we just, we had them kind of like train up on it, right? And then that was like required, like they had to go through that before they even made any offers. And that's acquisitions, but from the virtual assistant team, they really got to know their role. They got to know, and then they've been tested, and then we could let them loose and then start to track. And so I think it's external, internal, and then we have custom training based on what somebody might specifically need. Like, for example, a virtual assistant, some of our processes that we already have in place. Because a lot of times what's happening is we have a virtual assistant, and then they end up needing an assistant or having somebody kind of help them on some of the stuff that is no longer.
A lot of times that training is the virtual assistant training the next virtual assistant on like, hey, this is now going to be your task. So like, here's how I used to do it. This is how it's supposed to be done. Now this is a training that's, Alex and I are now removed from that because, hey, this is a process, a system that we've already created. And now, like Alex said, maybe that virtual assistant gets, a little bogged down, or we determine, hey, you know what, it's no longer the best use of your time to be doing that. You've excelled in other areas that we'd rather you focus your time and effort on that area than having to worry about doing this. And we can bring somebody else on, train them on that beginning task, and then, you know, gauge them on that and see if we can give them more, you know, time consuming or more important tasks along the road after they've proven themselves.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So
But Alex, I want to touch base on that external training, because it's something that, you know, I think comes up a lot of times with people when they're thinking about bringing on a virtual team member, right? Do I bring on an agency, or, you know, do I want to do this myself and kind of do this in-house? And so, you know, that's something that's worked really well for us, right? Is having a third-party coach, a training program that we've already purchased. So now we're not necessarily training our virtual assistant on, hey, this is what a flip is, this is what a house is. It's, hey, you can go look at this video. You know, we have about 5 hours of content that you would need to watch, and then you'll take a piece of, you know, notes on it. So I see one of the questions in here is, how do you keep virtual team members accountable? Well, I'll assign them a 5-hour video to watch, and then I'll ask them for a 10 to 15-minute presentation on that video. And that presentation tells me whether or not, like, were you bought in and watching that 5 hours, or was that 5 hours that you were on the clock that you are not actually engaged and you are not moving your business forward, right? If a virtual assistant says, hey, I'm really good at sales, and you give them access to an expensive sales course, you know, that should be something that they're eager and excited to watch. And, you know, like I said, they should be able to report back to you exactly on what they learned, what their biggest takeaway was. You know, for example, Steve Trang uses scorch the earth, reversals, several other terms. So if you don't bring up one of those terms for me in that presentation, then I know, like, hey, it's pretty obvious you didn't really watch this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, and you created that. That wasn't even something I had done before. But you definitely need to, you know, have something like that in place to just keep them, you know, accountable. So cool, man. Well, I know we're, you know, you've touched a little bit more on the external thing. What's next? I think just working on their schedule is something that
Well, yeah. So scheduling, right? So talking to Mark Saldana's got the great question, right? How do you keep, you know, your virtual team members accountable, right? What type of work are they doing? What are the systems and processes that you guys have in place? So really, when you think about
the task matrix, I mean,
yeah. So yeah, when you talk about the systems, we have a system called the task matrix, and the task matrix is, you know, if you were to take a schedule and look at a book, an old schedule book, you know, that you would have had, that you wrote out your weekly schedule in, and, you know, when you're in high school, you block out, hey, well, I'm in math class here, and then after math class, I have to go to social studies, and then I get this little block here for lunch. And then after that, I'm gonna go down to you know, I'm in the debate class. I'm gonna go to the debate class. I'm in the math club or whatever. Or I have basketball practice, whatever those things are. You know, you kind of have that schedule set out for your day. So just like that, we have a task matrix set out for every one of our team members for the day, which kind of, you know, lets them know, hey, in the morning, you need to send in your tasks that you're gonna do today to a chat. And that kind of signifies to me, hey, Alex is on the clock. You know, Alex sent in his message. He's ready to work. These are the tasks he's working on today. So I know Alex is now on and ready to work. So if I want to work with him on one of those tasks, super easy. I just reach out to him and I say, hey, Alex, I saw that you're working on, you know, creating a marketing plan this morning. Let's jump on a Zoom. We'll handle that right now. Yeah. If it's something that, you know, I don't have time, maybe I'll check in, you know, once that person sends that text and just say, awesome, Rocks, you know, what are you getting first? What are you getting done first? You know, when can I squeeze in some time with you today? You know, I've got something on my list that I want to add on to your Rocks. So once I get that text in, it's pretty easy. That means I know they're on. Their Rocks for the day should be a combination of the task matrix, which is daily tasks.
What are Rocks for some of the people that don't know what that means?
Yeah, great. So a rock is part of our EOS training. It's from Gene Wickman, who writes a couple of great books on, you know, just how to operate a business, right? And he uses this EOS operating system where a rock is similar to like a brick. If you're laying a brick wall, you would have to start with the first brick at the bottom, and then the next brick on top of that, and the next brick next to that. And so, you know, to build a wall out of rocks, you have to lay the first rock. And if the first rock is weak, then the next rock after that won't be. So rocks are actionable items that you are doing to that wall. So I'm laying grout. Then I'm going to put the the actual brick in, then I'm going to put some grout on the side, then I'm going to place the next brick. You know, what are those step-by-step pieces that you're doing to push the business forward? And the task matrix has my thoughts on what that is. So for example, our, you know, virtual team member who is in charge of social media, on Monday, their job might be to log in and immediately look at my social media page and look at Alex's social media page and find out how our post did from over the weekend and how our content grew from this week compared to last week, right? So,
exactly.
you know, go over our insights and our analytics on it, right? We call those
exactly.
KPIs.
I think, you know, that actionable items that we all have, we call them rocks because, you know, like that's our goal for the week. I need to make sure I get this done for the next thing to fall. It's like almost like these dominoes. And without that domino falling, the next one's not going to fall. And so, you know, one of the rocks for one of my VAs might be like, hey, get Alex's flight booked, you know, this date, this around this time, you know, and this is kind of the seats that I want. And this is, you know, I'm gonna put it on my calendar. And so I'm that's already taken care of. So I don't have to go there and spend that 16 minutes to go book a flight and do all that, because 16 minutes that they're saving me is 16 minutes I could spend on looking at a deal that's going to make us, you know, $100,000. Like that's a better use of my time than booking the flight. So just how many things are you doing in your day-to-day that somebody else can be doing? Yes, you're gonna have to pay them, but you're gonna be able to be more productive for that. And that's the whole point, you know, and but they need to know what to do. And so you need to identify and make a real like clear list of the things that you can delegate, you don't want to do, and that can be someone else can be done.
And I love how Alex brought that up, right? You make a list, and that's what our task matrix is it's a list of what would need to happen on that day. So on Monday, it might be on your task matrix for your virtual assistant to reach out to you and ask, hey, are you booking any travel this week that I didn't know about last week? Yeah, I am. I'm actually going to be going out to a meetup in Norco. Oh, awesome. Did you want me to set up a dinner reservation for you after the meetup? Yeah, that would be great. I'd love that. That'd be awesome because I am going to be out there. It is going to end at 8. I am going to be hungry and I am going to be with another couple of investors. So that would be wonderful. Why don't you let me know which reservation it is? And, you know, we'll keep that on tab. I'll shoot you a message, or why don't you shoot me a message at 7:30, check in with me and see if we're still, you know, a go for the reservation or if you should go ahead and cancel that.
Yeah, exactly. And what you're saying too is also we're training our virtual assistants to understand our life and our business so they can continue to add value and save us time. But we, you know, part of that, we do need to let them know like, hey, you know, like, because what I'm always telling people about the virtual assistants is like, you need to make sure that they understand your business and it's just not like a job for them and just like clocking in and out. Like they're actually thinking. Like we don't need robots. Like we need people that can really actually think how they can use their skills, you know, help make our business a lot better, and therefore they're compensated and they get to grow and they get to learn in return. So I think that's really important that you find people that actually are willing to think, because we've also had virtual assistants where they just want to do like this task and that's it. And like, okay, that's cool, but how valuable are you if all you really want to do is just be an order taker and you don't actually want to grow within the organization and become better and better at whatever you're doing? Because
we actually pay 2 hours a week for our VAs to step aside for 30 minutes a day and think of 2 new ideas that can change, alter, or improve the business. You know, so that's like 2 hours at $4 to $10 an hour. You know, that realistically, you know, is hey, if this is our accountant and our accountant is getting paid, you know, a good amount of money to do our virtual accounting, and you know, they notice like, hey guys, this is incorrect. We should do something this way, and that saves us thousands of dollars on our accounting at the end of the year. Then, you know, like that's something that they need to bring up to us, and we, you know, actually are seeking out those kind of ideas to improve our business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's a little bit outside the role. And I think that takes us kind of to the next point that we were going to make, which is, right, is like the role that they're going to have. And so that can evolve, but, you know, at the very minimum, it needs to be defined at the beginning on what is, you know, expected from them. And part of that is that kind of these personality assessments and these tools that are used, such as we use predictive index. It's not cheap. But we also use like stuff. I've used Strength Finder. It's a great book that helps highlight your top 5 strengths. And there's DISC assessment, the DISC. That's a much more common, popular, mainstream assessment. But in any event, what you're really trying to identify is what this dominant personality is for these people and what is their natural talents, and then just pushing them in roles and tasks and activities that are kind of fulfilling that. Gabe, our newer virtual assistant, and I were talking, and I was telling him my goal is that 80% of my day is focused on activities, tasks, things that I enjoy doing and I'm great at. You know, I have the capacity to be great at. And I can't expect that to be 100% of the day because, you know, that's unrealistic. But I also don't want that to be like 20% of my day, right? Where I'm really focused on things that are not, that burn me out, that take energy, that are heavy, however you want to say it. And so, you know, I want my team to be the same, where they're working on something because then there's more engagement, right? And then they're more likely to get things done faster and in better quality, and then have more room and more bandwidth to potentially do what you're saying, is to actually think and put thought into how they can become better in their role, or how they can make the business better because something that they saw, you know, within the business that maybe is not operating as efficiently. And so, you know, that is some of the kind of the mindset and the role that we're kind of talking to people about, you know, just getting them. We recently had to reposition one of our virtual assistants. I think she's on here, Lily. She was, you know, an amazing text messenger for us, but really, you know, it was clear to us that she was a lot more capable than just sending text messages. And then we ended up transitioning to like the project management side of things, and because she's in architecture school and she loved, you know, she's just like, she's great, and she's helping the project managers, and she's making a better impact, and she's more engaged, and she's working more hours. Why? Because she's more within the role of what she does well, and what things that give her energy rather than take energy from her. So those things. And then we're constantly updating and seeing, like, I'm checking in with people like every 30 days. I just had a conversation with Mikey, our operations manager, like, hey, bro, you know, it's been about 30 days since your new role. How are you feeling? Give me an update. What are your thoughts, feedback? You know, it was 7 minutes, but it was 7 crucial minutes of us like, hey, how's your new role? How are you adapting? What's going on there? Anything else I need to do? How can I support you more? Like, how is this person, you know, kind of doing? Because, you know, you're in charge of this person. And those conversations are super important, because if you're virtual, like, I have to try to talk to everybody, you know, within the company, the team. You know, I got to touch them every month, at least, you know, a couple of times, and see what, you know, how they're doing, and check in with them, because we're all human, and, you know, we're working on a lot. So, yeah.
So I got a couple questions coming in here from the Q&A, guys, and appreciate you guys, you know, throwing your questions in there. So let's answer some of these. Oscar and Franco are both wondering, do you use virtual marketing agents and sales and acquisitions VAs? And like Alex mentioned, you know, that's kind of the role, right? And understanding the role of our virtual assistants. So, you know, Lily, as we mentioned, was an acquisitions VA, one that was searching out and you know, looking for deals initially. And then, you know, we were able to kind of reposition her into a different role. But yes, we do have sales VAs, we do have marketing VAs. Our marketing, you know, agents are, you know, folks that are helping us out with marketing tasks. And then Franco had a great question. He said, you know, what work are your VAs doing? And again, that comes down to those tasks that Alex and I are putting on a list, where Alex has made a flyer for our meetup before. You know, it might have just been a picture of Alex with some words on the bottom on a Facebook, on an Instagram story, you know, and that was his post. But you know, we've made a flyer before. We just aren't the best at making flyers. So we you know, identify that and say, let's bring in somebody that makes flyers really good, right?
Yeah, and I want to answer, you know, that too, Franco. Were you finished there, Will? I didn't want to cut you off. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, because he's saying here, like, do you actively manage them every day, hold their hand? What's the biggest ROI job that they do for you? So let's answer those there. So do you actively, well, hold on. What are the primary tasks you have them do? So
we've gone over that. That's the kind of the list that we make. We go over that, right?
Yeah, you actively manage them every day, hold their hand. No, we don't. That's why we have very clear instructions of what we need. We communicate on a regular basis? Yes, we have several WhatsApps. You know, because they're in a country, we use WhatsApp, all the groups in there. And so we're constantly kind of pinging each other throughout the day and checking in on stuff, you know, because these are active tasks they're doing. What they're finishing is affecting what we need to do on our end too. So it's like this kind of moving train where, you know, it's all kind of together. Another thing is that what's the biggest ROI job they do for you? I want to answer something kind of like on that question. It's like delegating something to my VA that might take me 13 minutes, but it took me maybe 2 minutes to delegate. Well, that saved me 11 minutes, you know? That might not seem like that, but imagine that 5 times a day. That saved me an hour, you know? So that's the way you really got to look at it. Like, how much is your hour worth? Well, my hour is worth like $1,000 an hour. So if I could delegate something that is like, you know, $20 an hour, 50, you know, whatever that is, you know, I'll pay, because it's more important that I focus on the other stuff. And so, like, I think the ROI is really kind of, for me, being that I have more bandwidth. You know, I also jokingly, like, I don't really drive very much. I like to be driven. Why? Because in that way I could think, I could work, and I'm not behind the wheel doing something that's not it's a $20 an hour job. Like, so Those are things, the way you got to be thinking, so you can get more and more of your time back and up to get more and more results. So I think it's an infinite ROI. If I can make a better decision because I'm not as stressed out because I don't have as much on my plate, then that's going to be more important than, doing this task that's a minimum wage activity, or even if it's worth $100 an hour, that's still below what I should be working on, almost. Yeah. For me.
So, and on that note, Franco, everyone in our organization sells, right? So whether you are the social media manager that's making our social media posts, you're selling, right? Your job is to get more people into our webinar. We have a meetup coming up. Our social media team had KPIs. It was to fill up the event, right? We wanted to have 125 people log in. We had 125 people log in to RSVP for the event. So, that is a sell, right? It was, hey, we need to get these people into the event, because if not, then Alex and I are going down to an event with 5 people, and we'd rather just give those 5 people a one-on-one call and hang out with them than spend that time driving down there just to do that, right? So, or maybe do it at a different place rather than our house if it is only 5 people coming out. And so Alex and I might only have time to invite 5 people if we're sending one-on-one messages to everybody during the day, whereas our virtual team, they know, hey, they don't need to hold our hands. We've done an event before. We've announced an event before. We've done signups for an event before. So it's, hey, announce the event, launch the event, book the event, produce the event. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
I know we were kind of talking about roles. Let's talk a little bit more compensation wise, right? Because I know, a lot of times, you look at a virtual team member and that's adding a salary, right, Alex? Adding an expense onto your balance sheet. So how do you kind of, justify, that compensation being added on there?
Yeah, so I think the first thing we look for is just kind of like the overall rates that we're going to pay, and what we've seen, it's somewhere between $4 and $10 an hour. I know it's kind of range there because it just depends on what they're working on, and so typically we pay them an hourly rate, and then we also include some bonuses based on performance, based on what they get done. So it just allows them, they have incentive to do better at what they're doing, because we don't want to just pay them their, say $5 an hour. We like for them to, everybody wants the opportunity to earn more, but they do need to, to do extra or make sure that they do their job very well. So that way they, they're eligible for bonuses. But a lot of our VAs that help with, certain transactions or certain events that we've done, even though we haven't even made money, say, on the event, we bonus them because they did such an amazing job. They stayed extra late. They knew the pressure was on. We had to get this thing done. And so we give them, $100 bonus because they just really came through for us in the clutch. So, you want to take care of your people because they are, if they are A+ players, then, you need to compensate them accordingly. So I've never been a fan of just let me get the cheapest VA possible either, because those are also, my experience, kind of likely to move on. If someone pays them $1 more an hour, well, they're going to leave you high and dry. You just spent, 2 weeks training them. So why would you want that? We've seen that happen before. So we do that. We want to pay them well, give them incentives to make more. We also, in some instances, have considered doing the medical benefits. Haven't done one on that yet, but I know those medical benefits for people in the Philippines, that's kind of important to them. So we've considered, starting to add that. And then there's thing called aguinaldo, which is basically Christmas bonus. So we paid that out last year. The year before that, it's actually in the Philippines and in Mexico, and it's standard. Whereas in the United States, Christmas bonuses are kind of optional for businesses. So even though we're a business based in the United States, we've paid them their aguinaldo, which is not cheap. It's 2 weeks salary. So we've done things like that. Obviously, these are for virtual assistants that are performing and doing well, but because we didn't necessarily have to do that. But for me, I have a generous, heart, and I feel and I want to make sure that they're making money, and they're seeing us make money as well, and they're helping us with the business. So but the thing is, it just has to all make sense, and then everybody can treat it a little bit differently. But our compensation package is kind of multi-pronged. You're able to make money with us in various ways, so that way they work harder.
And I think compensation goes a lot with alignment, right? So we talk about alignment with our virtual team, checking in on a monthly basis, the monthly checkups. We need to know from our virtual team members, is medical, insurance important to you? Is that something that you need? Is, a couple of extra weeks time off to be with your family important to you? What are those, or weekends just non-negotiable? That's you and your family time. You don't even have a question to do that. And those are all, things that kind of fall into alignment, right, is making sure that, we are on the same wavelength with our virtual team members. We treat our virtual team members, Alex, like they're part of our team. I mean, they are extended team members. And so, we just as we would treat our team members that we see on a daily basis here in the States, we want to treat those people with the same amount of respect as well.
I mean, exactly. I think it's a great point. Like, don't look at them as any different than a regular team member that you are like sitting next to every day. Like, why would they be different? I mean, they're in a different country, but yeah, I've never really looked at it that way. And as a matter of fact, that some people might know that follow me, other people don't, is since I live part-time in Guadalajara, Mexico, where some of our virtual assistants are, I've taken them out to fancy restaurants. I've hung out with them. I've, also let them, use my penthouse apartment if they wanted to. So, just kind of like really treat them like, like we do that all the time too. When I'm in LA, we go out with the team members, we go have, drinks or go bowling or go to the beach, do something kind of cool. So we're not really talking about that much. And I think we kind of overlooked talking about like the culture of your team overall. And you need to work on that constantly because whenever you're adding people on, kind of the vibe changes, right? So that's one big thing that I'm always focused on is a kind of like, since we're virtual, is everybody getting along? Is everybody kind of working well together? And that's so like actually working on the culture of your company, your team, it's something very important because that can be communicated to them like at the very beginning so that we make sure that they're a good culture fit, and since there's already cultural differences because they're in other countries, sometimes you have to explain things that are more cultural to the United States or have those conversations with them and then identify that, hey, there's some cultural differences here. And, just this is how we do things around here. And it's been very, very helpful just to, kind of focus on that part because people then understand, our team members understand that we're not just trying to make money, but we want everybody to have an environment where they work at, where it's positive, they're learning, all that stuff. And it's not just about, okay, let's just make a bunch of money. Let's flip a bunch of houses. No, it's like we look at it as we're improving the world like one house at a time. We use that kind of overall slogan. Could be corny, but that's how we really look at it. We're improving the world one house at a time. We're by working together.
Bam, and it's our team members down there as well. So when we are working on that goal, it's a team goal, and our virtual team members, like I said, they are a part of our team. So they are trending towards that same goal as us. So guys, I think what we'll do now is we will go ahead and welcome some people here onto the screen. And kind of welcome people in as Alex kind of gives some final closing thoughts, on virtual assistants and just kind of, we'll get you guys in here just so you guys can ask any final questions that you guys have, any feedback. I know we gave a poll, so we'd love to kind of, give you guys a little bit of time to connect here as well. So Alex, what are your kind of final takeaways, man?
Well, I think one thing we kind of missed is that we do have, kind of a team meeting, we call it a level 10 meeting. That's also part of the EOS. Where every single week we're all getting together early on the Tuesday. We switched it from Mondays, but that helps keep everybody aligned. I feel like that's super important. We couldn't run the business without having that high level meeting every beginning of the week to get on the same page. Everybody gets their rocks. Everybody gets wins or talks about what were wins and good news from the previous week. Also, I wanted to kind of just talk about that alignment a little bit, just making sure, because people always ask like how. Because they see that you're a savage, Will, and people, you've begun to build your brand out now, really well done, and so people know you, and they're like, well, how did you attract Will, and or how do you manage this virtual team, or how are you doing deals in other states? And I think just this term and this idea of alignment is something that's super critical, because whenever it's off, it's just disaster for results. So for example, with you, like, for the very beginning, I knew you could be an amazing acquisitions person. So, I was like, hey, start with acquisitions and then we'll go from there. Give me a year acquisitions and you'll be a beast and we'll kind of go from there. And then your role evolved to, running the operations, basically COO. And then now partner on equity deal here with this multifamily unit, right? And then Nicole is more of a virtual example because you've been based here in Southern California, but Nicole, she started as our just kind of in a VA, entry-level VA, and then she became a senior VA, and now she's working on the transaction coordination and kind of running that department. So just that constant evolution of your role, if you're growing, is something that we've seen, and I focus a lot because of the alignment. We're seeing, okay, this aligns with the company's goals and with this individual's goals. So like also when you work in a remote team, we have this remote team down there in Mexico and also in the Philippines, and this other team in Southern California, this other team within Southern California, because we have different places that we're rehabbing and different places that we rehab in Southern California. So just making sure that all those people are working well together, because those are different departments. And I remember the second company that I worked for, there was a lot of nepotism. There's a lot of kind of negativity, like the project management and the acquisitions departments they would butt heads all the time. There was a lot of strong, personalities, and it was just like a disaster for productivity. I remember how unengaged I would see people. I was fully engaged because I really was passionate to be working in the business that I wanted to be in, but I would just see this negativity. And so I try to really just exterminate that any way I can, because like just bad blood within team members is no bueno for, profitability. And so that's one big part, making sure everybody's kind of getting along as well. Once you grow past like 1, 2, 3 people and you're like, a dozen people, people got to get along and to get the highest and the best results, right? So that's all I got. What questions you have? We got about 10 minutes. Let's rock.
Yeah, last question I see is coming in from Franco asking, why, Alex, do we take the time to do these Zoom meetings, these meetup events, and show people all these things? And again, I guess the first answer to that I'll say is just, we enjoy the vibe of the tribe, and love connecting with you guys and giving out information. I see a couple people on our team that are in here that are growing their businesses, growing their wealth. Like Alex said, I'm a great example of, somebody who's been able to grow their experience and grow their wealth through real estate. So I think it's exciting to see, what that can behold. And I know Alex personally, wants to mentor, 25 people every year, to financial independence, to financial freedom, to that point, where they're also able to take down a deal and change their life. And we're well on the way to that this year as well here, right?
Yeah. Thank you. Great answer. Well, from my side, Franco, it's a couple of reasons. First one is that, this thing was kind of born in the middle of the pandemic. People weren't really getting together in person. I didn't see any active real estate investor groups and or meetups and or webinars that I was really there was a couple, but I didn't see anything that I felt was that's something I wanted to attend on a regular basis, or I just didn't feel like I got that much value. So I was like, well, first of all, I want to do it because nobody else is doing it. And I would like to have that thing. So like you create the things that you want to exist. So I'm like, let me create this, weekly thing. We just get together, talk about real estate. I am at heart a teacher. I wanted to be a teacher when I was, a kid, but then like they just don't, it doesn't pay very well. So, I didn't go down that route because it was not that. And then, just kind of being able to put content out there. I think one big part of it was that I remember the two companies that I work for, as much as I respect them and I love everybody that I work with and all that, and I appreciate the opportunities they gave me, it really did always feel like people were just holding me back as far as like not giving me all the information to put all the pieces together. And so I kind of want to just give the information out for free so the right people kind of run with it, compared to like just kind of being real secretive, because, like you got to pay it forward. Once you come up in life enough, like if you're not giving back to people or kind of helping other or creating some type of community to help other people because you're kind of far along on that journey, well, then you're kind of withholding like value from the world. And I really feel a lot of people do that, where they just kind of like, oh, well, I'm coming up in this area of my life, but I'm not sharing it because like you're kind of greedy. Right? Maybe people, a lot of people, you're in this mindset of like scarcity in some way. We all do it. I do it. You do it. Everybody does it. We get into this either abundance or a scarcity, right? And we can kind of fluctuate between those. In some areas in our life, we're abundant, we're giving a lot. In other areas, we're kind of not. So I think that's kind of a part of it as well. And then as we started doing it, it just got easier too, where we were doing it. And at the beginning, it took a lot of bandwidth. And then eventually, just like it takes an hour to do this live webinar, it takes maybe another hour of my week. So this thing takes 2 hours of my week. But I'll tell you, we've gotten deals from it. We've gotten team members to join the team from it. We've kind of really built out the Facebook group, so we have more people to have this conversation. So we're just kind of like, it just all kind of continued to be where like this thing makes sense for us to do. And we do kind of want to switch it to a podcast more so we can actually share with more people than just the 25 people that are in the room. But we uploaded everything to the YouTube channel, and we'll see like 20 hours of watch time, 15 hours of watch time. So people are watching the recordings and taking action and getting deals and learning from it too. So that's also very gratifying. So I'd say just overall all that stuff combined, because we get a lot more than we give, man. And I know we give a lot, but believe me, it comes back tenfold.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, guys, and if you guys did get some value out of this, feel free to share it. Share a post, take a picture, share it with other people on your socials and let them know, the value that you were able to get here. We do appreciate, people joining the community and being a part of this. Like we said, we're kind of just going through things that come up. When people register for the webinar, they ask a question, and if we see a similar question coming up time and time again, that's usually something that we want to identify and help out and get answers to for you guys, because it's obviously something that's coming up. So anybody have any other questions, topics they want to kind of go over in the coming weeks? Anything that's holding them back? Any feedback on VAs? Anything like that? Let her rip.
Yeah, I have a question, Will. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, yeah. So in terms of the rates, because they're going back there, they keep going up every month. So with the calculator, do you allot a certain percentage of the comps to kind of go down, or do you give yourself like a extra wiggle room for every month that goes by with the interest rates that keep going up when you're acquiring?
So
Nowadays,
remember, interest rates aren't comps, right? An interest rate is just the price that somebody's going to have to pay to purchase that property.
Yeah.
So what you'll notice is if you do your comps, the comps right now are not going to be the comps that are there 3 months from now.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is you have to predict, well, what are those comps going to be 3 months from now? And that's where for us, we have an advantage. We're going to be selling several of our properties right now. So we'll know where those comps are. We'll know, what our interest level is. We'll know what the buyer feedback is on those. But my anticipation is you're going to see that buyer feedback is like, hey, we're going to pay a little bit less for these houses. There's not as much of a demand where you're going to guarantee that property goes over your max value, but that there is a possibility that it could come under. And that's why that, best case, worst case, best case becomes even more important now. Like, are you comfortable with that worst case? If the market were to sag 20%, that would mean that your ARV, not the money that it costs for them to get into it, but that would mean, hey, the comps are showing me that they're only willing to spend this much for that property now. But I think the rates going up, Alex, that certainly affects buyer mentality as well.
Yeah, it
right?
does. It has been.
Yeah, let me give you my point of view on that. So what we're seeing is that we're getting significantly less offers on property, but we're still getting offers and we're still selling properties. So the whole question is, is the interest rates going to completely eliminate the buyer demand? And we don't believe it will. We don't believe that home prices are going to go up. We just believe that they're going to stay stale, or if they're going to go down, they're going to go down in the higher end market on those oddball properties. Most of the stuff that we work on, since it's cosmetic entry level type of houses, then we're calculating no appreciation or potentially a drop. 20%, I think, is very extreme with the amount of inventory that so the buyer demand would have to drop like off the earth, really. And we don't really see that really happening. So it's all a buyer, demand versus supply.
Yeah.
And so I think you're safe in at least like not calculating appreciation and maybe a bit of a dip. But also it's important that you start to like call the comps, the pending comps, more, call the active comps. Like, hey, what kind of activity are you seeing? Pending comp is like, well, where did you end up getting at and whatnot. So that way you can see what's going to close in that area. So you might need to do a little bit more further due diligence on your ARVs just to be a little bit more sure that it is going to hit somewhere around there, so that you can wholesale your deal or flip your property, whatever that may be. But that's kind of where we're approaching it. And then we're selling off. It's like our main goal right now is just sell off our inventory, what we currently have, and then get that data and understand, okay, where's the market kind of at. But it's hard to tell because it's just all panic and fear. But the numbers are really what you want to pay attention to. And there's just still such a shortage of overall inventory that it's just a scenario of it going down 20%.
This is not realistic.
It's not realistic. I don't foresee the houses going down that much. But we are preparing in the event that we do see a dip by not calculating any appreciation, actively looking into those comps, like I mentioned, to a lot even more than before, and then also just kind of analyzing our data from the offers and showing activity and everything we're getting for our properties, and then all that, and then so that's just do that due diligence, and I think you'll be fine, because especially flip game, I mean, you're in and out typically 4 to 6 months, but things are moving fairly quickly right now, and there is a lot of panic. So I would not be aggressive on ARV at all at this point.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Alex, and
But on the
Will.
flip side, you can use the fear in the market as a negotiation tool. But between us, I
Yeah.
don't, so I'm not saying that I'm not doing that because
Tell the seller you ain't gonna sell this thing, man.
when people are fearful, be greedy, and when people are fearful, when people are greedy, be fearful, So,
Definitely. I
all
mean,
right. Well, I see my man, the stash is in the building. What's up, Renee? Miss you, bud. We gotta catch up. All right. So I think we're wrapped up. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Appreciate
Again,
it.
guys, I just saw Zaid mention that he had just joined in a little bit late and wanted to just, again, let you guys know. Actually, it looks like that was Jagadish that had just joined in a little bit late. But guys, the Facebook group is where we usually post a copy of all those recordings. If you want, you can go on there. There's a link to our YouTube page where we have, we've done 15 hours, 15 weeks out of these 80 weeks. We've gone in and just reviewed deals, like literally pulled up that calculator. Hey, this is a deal we bought. This is why we bought it. This is how it looked. This is what it looked like. This is why we made the moves we did. We'll go in some of those weeks out of those 15. We'll just pick a random spot on the map and say, Anaheim, let's go find a deal at Anaheim. Let's look at how we would review that, how we would put that on the calculator. So make sure you guys take advantage of that. That's all on the Facebook group. Just find the link in there. You can find the calculator that we use, and you can find the YouTube recordings of us actually going through that. You'll find all the special guests that we've talked with on there as well. So make sure you take a moment, catch up on anything you might have missed, and we'll see you guys next week. We'll have a special guest coming up as well. You guys will be fired up when you guys get to see who that is. I can't wait to announce that one. That one is going to be fire. So just keep your eye out, guys, and we'll see you guys next week on the flip side.
Let's go.